Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing tales from the wild. I remember the day vividly. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden hue over the vast, icy expanse of the Arctic. I was wandering through the frozen landscape, my heart heavy with the weight of solitude. As a young polar bear, I had always been curious about the world around me, but that day felt different. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, and I could sense that something was amiss. As I trudged through the snow, I stumbled upon a sight that would change everything. There, nestled against a mound of ice, was a small, shivering polar bear cub. Its white fur was matted and dirty, and its eyes were wide with fear. I approached cautiously, my heart racing. I had never seen a cub alone before. Where was its mother? "Hey there, little one," I said softly, trying to soothe the trembling creature. "What happened to you?" The cub looked up at me, its eyes filled with a mix of hope and despair. "I don't know," it whimpered. "I was with my mom, but then I lost her. I can't find her anywhere." My heart ached for the cub. I knew the dangers of the Arctic all too well. The harsh environment could be unforgiving, especially for a young bear. "Don't worry," I reassured it. "I'll help you find her. We can search together." As we began our search, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary day. The winds howled around us and the ice creaked beneath our paws. I led the way, my instincts guiding me as we navigated the treacherous terrain. The cub followed closely, its small paws struggling to keep up with my larger strides. "Why did you leave your mom?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation going to distract it from its fear. "I didn't mean to," the cub replied, its voice barely above a whisper. "I was playing and then I got lost. I thought I could find her again, but everything looks the same." I nodded, understanding the confusion that came with the endless white landscape. "It's easy to get lost out here. But we'll find her. Just stay close to me." As we continued our search, I couldn't help but notice the signs of a changing world around us. The ice was thinner than I remembered, and the hunting grounds were becoming scarcer. I had heard the older bears talk about how the climate was shifting, but I had never seen it firsthand until now. The thought weighed heavily on my mind as I focused on the task at hand. Hours passed, and the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the ice. The cub's energy was waning, and I could see the fear creeping back into its eyes. "What if we don't find her?" it asked, its voice trembling. I paused, looking down at the little bear. "We will find her. I promise. But we need to keep moving. Let's head toward that ridge over there. It might give us a better view." With renewed determination, we made our way to the ridge. As we climbed, I felt a sense of urgency building within me. I couldn't let this cub down. It deserved to be with its family, to feel safe and loved. When we reached the top, I scanned the horizon, hoping to catch a glimpse of the cub's mother. But all I saw was an endless expanse of ice and snow. My heart sank. "I don't see anything," I admitted, trying to keep my voice steady. The cub's shoulders slumped in defeat. "What if she's gone forever?" it asked, tears welling in its eyes. I felt a pang of sadness for the little one. "We can't give up hope. Let's rest for a moment and then keep searching. Sometimes they come back to the same spot." As we settled down, I wrapped my body around the cub, providing warmth against the biting cold. "Tell me about your mom," I encouraged. "What's she like?" The cub's eyes lit up as it spoke. "She's big and strong. She knows how to catch seals, and she always tells me stories about the stars. I miss her so much." I listened intently, feeling a connection forming between us. In that moment, I realized that this little cub was not just a lost soul, it was a beacon of hope. I had to do everything in my power to help it find its way back home. Just then, a distant sound broke through the silence, a low rumble that sent shivers down my spine. I looked at the cub and we both froze. "What was that?" it whispered, eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," I replied, my heart racing. The sound echoed again, louder this time, reverberating through the ice beneath us. It was a deep, ominous growl, unlike anything I had ever heard before. The cub pressed closer to me, its small body trembling against the cold. "Maybe it's my mom," the cub exclaimed, hope flickering in its eyes. "Maybe," I said, though I felt a knot of unease in my stomach. "But we should be careful. It could be something else." As we cautiously descended the ridge, the growling continued, and I felt a sense of dread wash over me. The Arctic was a harsh place, and danger lurked in many forms. I had heard stories of other predators, bears that had turned rogue due to hunger or desperation. I couldn't let that happen to us. We moved quietly, our paws barely making a sound on the ice. The growling grew louder, and soon we found ourselves at the edge of a large crevasse. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. The ice glimmered in shades of blue and white, but the deep chasm seemed to swallow the light, creating an eerie darkness below. "What if it's down there?" the cub whispered, peering over the edge. "Let's not get too close," I cautioned, stepping back. "We need to find a way around." Just then, a shadow moved in the distance, and I squinted to see what it was. My heart sank as I recognized the shape: a massive male polar bear, his fur matted and dirty, his eyes wild with hunger. He was stalking something, and I realized with a jolt that he was heading straight for us. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing the cub and sprinting away from the edge. The growling intensified, and I could hear the heavy thud of the male bear's paws behind us. We dashed across the ice, my instincts kicking in as I led the way, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Where do we go?" the cub cried, panic rising in its voice. "Follow me. We need to find shelter." I shouted back, scanning the landscape for any sign of safety. My mind raced as I searched for a place to hide. The ice was vast and open, with few places to take cover. We spotted a cluster of ice formations in the distance, and I urged the cub to keep up. The male bear was gaining on us, his growls echoing in the stillness. I could feel the fear radiating from the cub, and I knew we had to act fast. As we reached the ice formations, I quickly ducked behind a large block of ice, pulling the cub in with me. We huddled together, our breaths coming in quick gasps as we listened for the approaching bear. The growling stopped, and for a moment there was silence. "Do you think he saw us?" the cub whispered, its voice trembling. "I don't know," I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. "But we need to stay quiet." Just then I heard a crunching sound nearby. My heart raced as I peered around the ice block. The male bear was sniffing the air, his massive head moving from side to side. I could see the hunger in his eyes, and I knew we were in grave danger. "Stay close," I whispered to the cub, my body tense with fear. The male bear was just a few feet away, and I could feel the weight of his presence. He was searching for food, and we were vulnerable. Suddenly, the male bear let out a frustrated growl and turned away, moving deeper into the ice formations. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "We need to move while we can," I said, nudging the cub gently. "Stay low and follow me." We crept out from our hiding spot, my senses on high alert. The male bear was still nearby, but I could see a narrow path leading away from the ice formations. I led the cub down the path, my heart racing as we navigated the treacherous terrain. As we moved, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The Arctic was full of surprises, and I knew that danger could come from anywhere. Just as we reached a clearing, I heard a rustling sound behind us. I turned to see the male bear emerging from the ice formations, his eyes locked onto us. "Run!" I shouted again, and we took off, sprinting across the open ice. The male bear was fast, and I could hear his heavy footsteps pounding behind us. I glanced back, and my heart sank as I saw him gaining ground. "Why is he chasing us?" the cub cried, its voice filled with fear. "He's hungry," I shouted back, pushing myself to run faster. "We need to find a way to escape." The icy landscape blurred around us as we sprinted, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel the cold air burning in my lungs, but I couldn't afford to slow down. The male bear was relentless, his growls echoing in the stillness, a constant reminder of the danger we faced. "Where do we go?" the cub gasped, its small legs struggling to keep up with my larger strides. "Just keep running. We need to find a place to hide or a way to outsmart him," I shouted, scanning the horizon for any sign of safety. My mind raced as I thought of the stories I had heard from older bears about using the terrain to our advantage. Ahead, I spotted a series of jagged ice cliffs that jutted out from the ground. "Over there," I pointed. "We can use the cliffs to our advantage." We veered toward the cliffs, my instincts guiding me as we navigated the uneven terrain. The male bear was still hot on our trail, but I could see the cliffs providing a potential escape route. As we reached the base of the cliffs, I quickly led the cub behind a large boulder, hoping it would provide some cover. "Stay quiet," I whispered, my heart racing as I peered around the boulder. The male bear was close, his massive form moving with purpose. I could see the hunger in his eyes, and I knew we had to be careful. "Will he find us here?" the cub asked, its voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "But we have to stay hidden. If he gets too close, we'll have to make a run for it again." As we crouched behind the boulder, I could hear the male bear sniffing the air, searching for our scent. My heart raced as I watched him move closer, his massive paws crunching on the ice. I felt a surge of fear, but I also knew that we had to stay calm. Panic wouldn't help us now. Suddenly, the male bear paused, his ears perked up as if he had heard something. I held my breath, praying that he wouldn't discover us. Just then, a loud crack echoed through the air, and the ground beneath us trembled. The male bear turned, startled, and I seized the opportunity. Now! I whispered urgently, and we bolted from our hiding spot, sprinting toward the cliffs. The male bear roared in frustration, but we didn't look back. We dashed up the rocky incline, our paws scrambling for grip on the icy surface. As we reached the top, I turned to see the male bear below, his eyes filled with rage. He was too large to climb the cliffs easily, and I felt a moment of relief wash over me. We made it! I exclaimed, panting heavily. But our relief was short-lived. As we caught our breath, I noticed something strange in the distance. A plume of smoke rose into the sky, contrasting sharply with the white landscape. My curiosity piqued, I turned to the cub. Do you see that? It looks like there's something over there. What is it? The cub asked, its eyes wide with wonder. I'm not sure, but it could be a camp or something. Maybe there are other bears or even humans who can help us, I suggested, feeling a flicker of hope. Can we go? The cub asked, its voice filled with eagerness. Yes, but we need to be cautious. We don't know what we'll find, I replied, leading the way down the other side of the cliffs. As we descended, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The smoke could mean safety, or it could lead us into more danger. As we approached the source of the smoke, I could see a small camp set up on the edge of the ice. There were tents and equipment scattered around, and I could hear voices coming from within. My heart raced at the thought of encountering humans. I had heard stories about them. Some were kind while others posed a threat. Should we go closer? The cub asked, its voice trembling with anticipation. Let's stay hidden for now, I suggested, finding a spot behind a pile of snow. We watched as a group of humans moved about the camp, their laughter echoing in the cold air. They seemed unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Suddenly, one of the humans pointed toward the cliffs. Look, there's a polar bear, he shouted, excitement in his voice. My heart sank. They had spotted us. I quickly turned to the cub. We need to move. They might not be friendly. As we turned to leave, I heard the sound of footsteps approaching. Wait. Don't run, a voice called out. I glanced back to see a young woman stepping forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. We mean you no harm, she shouted, her voice carrying over the icy wind. I hesitated, torn between instinct and curiosity. The cub looked up at me, its eyes wide with uncertainty. Should we trust them? The cub whispered, its voice trembling. I don't know, I replied honestly. But we can't stay hidden forever. We need to find out what they want. With a deep breath, I stepped out from behind the snow pile, the cub following closely at my side. The humans froze, their eyes widening as they took in our presence. I could see the fear and awe in their expressions, but I also sensed a glimmer of curiosity. Look at that little cub, the woman exclaimed, her voice softening. It's so small and vulnerable. I felt a surge of protectiveness for the cub. We're just looking for safety, I said, my voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling within me. We've been chased by a bear, and I don't know what you want from us. The group exchanged glances, and the woman stepped closer, her eyes filled with compassion. We're researchers studying polar bears and their habitats. We want to help, not harm. We've seen the changes in the Arctic, and we're trying to understand how to protect these beautiful creatures. I felt a flicker of hope at her words. You want to help? I asked, my voice cautious. Yes, she replied earnestly. We have food and shelter. You and your cub can stay with us until it's safe to leave. We can even help you find your mother. The cub looked up at me, its eyes shining with hope. What do you think? It asked, its voice barely above a whisper. I weighed my options. The male bear was still out there, and the Arctic was becoming increasingly dangerous. Okay, I said finally, my heart racing. We'll stay for now, but we need to be careful. The woman smiled, relief washing over her face. Thank you. We'll make sure you're safe. As we approached the camp, I felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity. The humans had set up a small tent with supplies scattered around. I could see food laid out, and my stomach growled at the sight. The cub looked up at me, its eyes wide with wonder. Can we eat? It asked, its voice filled with excitement. Yes, but let's be cautious, I replied, keeping a watchful eye on the humans. They seemed friendly, but I knew better than to let my guard down completely. The woman led us to a small area where they had set up a makeshift feeding station. We have fish and some seal meat. It's not much, but it should help you regain your strength, she said, offering us a plate. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Thank you. The cub eagerly dug in, its small body trembling with hunger. I watched as it devoured the food, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. For the first time in a while, we were safe. As we ate, the humans began to ask questions. What happened to you two? One of the men asked, his voice filled with concern. I took a deep breath, recounting our harrowing experience. We were separated from my cub's mother. We were being chased by a male bear and we were lost in the ice. We didn't know where to turn. The humans listened intently, their expressions shifting from curiosity to empathy. It's becoming increasingly difficult for polar bears to find food and shelter, the woman said, her voice filled with sadness. Climate change is affecting their habitats, and many bears are struggling to survive. I felt a pang of sorrow at her words. I had sensed the changes in the Arctic, but hearing it from a human made it all the more real. What can be done? I asked, my voice filled with urgency. We're working on conservation efforts, she explained. We're studying the bears' behavior and their environment to find ways to protect them. But we need your help too. If you can lead us to your mother, we can ensure she's safe as well. The cub looked up at me, its eyes filled with hope. Can we help them? It asked, its voice trembling with excitement. I nodded slowly, feeling a sense of responsibility wash over me. Yes, we can help. But we need to be careful. The male bear is still out there and we don't know what he'll do. The humans nodded, their expressions serious. We'll be ready. We have equipment to protect ourselves if necessary, the woman assured us. After we finished eating, the humans began to prepare for the journey. They gathered their gear and discussed the best route to take. I watched as they moved with purpose, their determination evident. The cub, now filled with energy from the food, bounced around excitedly, eager to help. I felt a sense of pride in the little one, knowing that despite the fear it had faced, it was still filled with hope. Are you ready? The woman asked, looking at me with a mix of concern and excitement. We'll need to move quickly, but we'll follow your lead. I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. Let's go, I said, my voice steady. We need to find my cub's mother before it gets dark. As we set out, I led the way, my instincts guiding me through the familiar terrain. The humans followed closely, their eyes scanning the landscape for any signs of danger. The cub stayed close to my side, its small body filled with determination. As we moved, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The Arctic was full of surprises, and I knew that the male bear could be lurking nearby. I glanced back at the humans who were focused on the path ahead, and I felt a surge of protectiveness for both the cub and the researchers. After a while, we reached a large expanse of ice where I had last seen my cub's mother. I paused, scanning the area for any sign of her. This is where we were, I said, my heart racing. She should be around here somewhere. The cub looked up at me, its eyes filled with hope. Do you think she'll come back? I hope so, I replied, my voice filled with uncertainty. But we need to be patient. As we waited, I felt a sense of unease creeping in. The wind howled around us and the ice creaked beneath our paws. Just then I heard a familiar sound, a soft, distant call that sent a jolt of recognition through me. Listen, I said, my ears perked up. Do you hear that? The cub's eyes widened. It's my mom, it exclaimed, excitement bubbling in its voice. I turned toward the sound, my heart racing as I spotted a figure in the distance. A polar bear was making its way toward us, its white fur glistening in the fading light. I felt a rush of relief wash over me as I recognized her, the cub's mother. Mom, the cub shouted, bounding forward. I watched as the mother bear paused, her eyes widening in recognition. She rushed toward her cub, and the two embraced in a flurry of fur and joy. Tears filled my eyes as I witnessed their reunion. The bond between them was palpable, and I felt a sense of fulfillment knowing that I had played a part in bringing them back together. The mother bear turned to me, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, she said, her voice low and powerful. I was so worried about my cub. I thought I had lost it forever. I nodded, feeling a sense of pride swell within me. We faced some challenges, but we made it through together. The humans approached cautiously, their expressions filled with awe. You found her, the woman exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. This is incredible. The mother bear looked at the humans, her expression wary but curious. Who are you? She asked, her voice steady. We're researchers, the woman explained. We want to help polar bears like you and your cub. We're studying the changes in the Arctic and working to protect your habitat. The mother bear studied them for a moment, then nodded slowly. I appreciate your intentions. The world is changing and we need all the help we can get. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the icy landscape, I felt a sense of hope for the future. The cub was safe with its mother, and the humans were committed to making a difference. Together we could face the challenges ahead. Let's head back to the camp, I suggested, glancing at the humans. It's getting dark and we need to stay safe. The mother bear nodded and we began to make our way back. The cub walked proudly beside its mother, its spirit renewed. I felt a sense of fulfillment knowing that I had helped reunite them, and I was grateful for the unexpected alliance with the humans. As we reached the camp, the humans prepared a warm meal for the bears, ensuring they had enough to eat. I watched as the cub and its mother enjoyed the food, their bond stronger than ever. The humans shared stories of their research and I felt a sense of camaraderie forming between us. In that moment, I realized that despite the challenges we faced, there was hope. The Arctic was changing, but with understanding and cooperation, we could work together to protect the future of polar bears and their habitat. As we settled into the camp, I realized that this was not just a moment of survival, it was a turning point. The humans had shown us kindness and in return we had given them a glimpse into our world. The cub and its mother were safe, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The woman approached me, her eyes filled with determination. "We'll do everything we can to protect your home," she promised. "We'll share your story with the world so others understand the challenges you face." I nodded, feeling a sense of hope for the future. The Arctic was changing, but perhaps with the help of these humans, we could find a way to adapt and survive. The bond between the cub and its mother was a reminder of the strength of family, and I knew that together, we could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, I looked up and felt a sense of connection to the vastness of the world around me. The Arctic was my home and I would do everything in my power to protect it. With the cub and its mother safe, and the humans committed to helping us, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. In that moment, I understood that even in the face of adversity, there was always hope. Together we could forge a path forward, ensuring that the stories of polar bears would continue to be told for generations to come. And so, as the night enveloped us in its embrace, I knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for the cub and its mother but for all of us in the Arctic. We would stand together, united in our fight for survival, and together we would thrive.